Hello everybody, today I'm going to be talking about 10 tips to fall in love with reading or rekindle your relationship with reading. This is not a unique video idea, but I wanted to do it since today is Valentine's Day if you celebrate it. These tips, of course, are up to you if you feel they work for you or not. Disregard any tip that does not sound like it would work for you, and feel free to share in the comment section below any other tips that come to mind. Coming in at number 1, this is to pick a book that is just for you. And what I mean by that is when you get involved in book culture, whether it's through BookTube, Bookstagram, Book Talk, or Book Twitter, it could be very easy to get caught up in what other people are reading and feel like you need to read what everyone else is reading. And sometimes that could be exciting and fun, but sometimes it's good to tune in and recognize what's calling to you. What kind of book is speaking to you right now? And going towards that pool, I think that can go a long way towards your reading enjoyment personally. But then the second tip I have is sort of the opposite, and that's to get involved in a buddy read with a friend and share the book experience together, or to join a read along. Right now, some friends and I are hosting a Song of Ice and Fire read/reread along 2023. And so many of us are rereading that series. Some people are reading it for the first time. And we have scheduled live shows along the way, and people can pick up the books and enjoy at their own pace. But I just think it could be very fun to share thoughts with one another, get new ideas and theories with other people. Also, there are readathons, and that's where you read very competitively in teams and try to get points for reading as many books as possible in a month. And there are also non-competitive readathons where you just fulfill prompts on a bingo board and you pick a book that matches that prompt. There are various ways to get involved, but I think that just engaging with books and talking with others, having discussions, goes a long way towards reading enjoyment. And then the third tip is one I think that kind of goes well paired with number 2, and that is to read at the pace that works for you. Honor your own reading pace. And what I mean by that is that there are some people out there who love to read very, very quickly, and they're able to do that. And that motivates and excites them. And if that's you, go for it. But if you're somebody who is more like me and tends to read more slowly, and you find that reading as quickly as possible breaks your immersion, maybe honor that instead, finding a way to honor your own reading speed. And notice that that might change book to book or season to season. There might be times in your life where you enjoy reading more books more quickly, and there might be some books that lend themselves to reading quickly, and there may be some books that are just more immersive when you take the time to read it slowly. So I say honor your reading speed, whatever it is, and honor it as it may vary season to season, book to book, and whatever that may be. I think that can go a long way towards helping you to enjoy your reading lifestyle. Tip number 4 has to do with annotation. One way to do that is through a reading journal. So I don't do this all the time, but sometimes I'll be reading a book and I'll pause at a certain point and I'll just free write my thoughts on that section. So it might be a stream of consciousness, flow of ideas. I did this recently when I reread the prologue of Clash of Kings by George R.R. Martin, and I was surprised how many thoughts came up in me after reading that one section. And it can be so illuminating to find out your thoughts or to process your thoughts on paper, or you could do that in Discord through, spoiler bars and share that with others, or you could just highlight and annotate in the book itself. Or if you're somebody who likes to talk on camera, you could do a video vlog of your reading experience, or just do voice notes. But doing so, I think, is a wonderful way of engaging with the text as you're reading. And it's one that I have found very useful and helpful for me to engage with my thoughts. Even if the thoughts aren't the most positive in the world, I think it can be helpful to reflect back on what's working for you and what's not. And tip number 5 is sort of related to that, and that is to make a list of things you are loving in books right now. So I did this last year on Valentine's Day. I did a list of things I'm loving in books right now, and I find that that list will change over time, but it's good just to notice what's resonating for you at the moment, and that can also better inform the type of books you want to pick up. So I enjoy doing that kind of thing. I think that could be really great, a really great way of just noticing what appeals to you. Tip number 6 is to cast the characters in your book with people you know or with famous actors or actresses. And so right now I am rereading A Song of Ice and Fire, as I have already mentioned. And it's really easy, since there already is an adaptation, to think of the actors who were cast in the show as being in my mind as I'm reading about these characters. But even if there isn't an adaptation made for the book you're reading, you could always look up fan art. You can create your own fan art. You could just think of different actors again, or people you know who you could think of in that role as the villain or protagonist or whatever. And I just think that could be a lot of fun. It's something I do time to time. And it can be fun even if you're somebody who doesn't visualize what you read. So I highly recommend that. Tip number 7 is to try to be open to what the author is trying to do. And I know this is a little bit controversial because we all have our boundaries, we all have our deal breakers, we all have those areas where if an author crosses a line in a certain way, then you just know that this book isn't going to be for you no matter what, no matter how well written it is. And honor that, always honor that. And if you need to DNF, no problem, DNF. But sometimes it's a matter of us just adjusting our expectations or learning more about the approach the author is taking. Maybe it's not a traditional heroic fantasy quest. Maybe this is not the typical dystopian theme. You know, just understanding the different approach. Maybe it's a different structural approach than what you're used to. If you're able to adjust, again, honor your boundaries, but if you're able to adjust, it might make you more open-minded to different types of story. And having a more open mind to different types of story just opens up a world of possibilities of what you could pick up in literature. The next tip is to structure your TBR a little bit. I say this with some hesitancy. I know there are a lot of mood readers out there, but sometimes having at least a list of books that you have available that you could pick up next, and a list that's not too long, but that has some variety, I think that can help the flow of your reading. So with some people, they hate that. They just want to be very, very spontaneous with what they pick up. And sometimes that can go a long way towards reading enjoyment. I've done that quite a bit. But sometimes having that list, having that idea of what you're going to read next can help to relieve the pressure and stress. I didn't even think this through until I watched a wonderful video on Criminali's channel. I'll go ahead and link it below. And he talked about this, why he has a very structured TBR, because it would give him a lot of stress if he had to consider the many books he has available to read next. But again, for some people that might be too confining. So my middle path is to have a handful of books, maybe that are varied in genre or story type, that you could pick up next. So you have some options, but it's not too big of a list. The next tip is to consider changing the format. So if you're somebody who reads primarily physical books, maybe consider trying an ebook or an audiobook. Maybe consider immersion reading. I know not everybody can do that, and some people are limited to whatever format that they must use. And I honor that, of course, but if you have the ability and you have those options available, it's worthwhile to consider, picking up a graphic novel, maybe playing a video game with the narrative approach if you're able to. Just trying some other different types of ways to consume story, I think, can go a long way towards helping you engage with story more. So I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that. And it's something that I think can add some variety to your reading life. And related to changing format, of course, is changing genre, but I feel like that tip is given quite a bit. So we're kind of skipping over that one for now. And then tip number 10 is to take a break. Taking a break is not the same thing as breaking up. Even in the best of relationships, there could be times when you maybe don't want to spend every hour of the day with your partner and do every single pastime and share all the same hobbies. That can feel a bit smothering after a while. And why wouldn't it be the same with your hobbies? Why would you need to be productive 100% of the time with each hobby you do? I don't think you do. Even athletes, even the best of athletes, have their off seasons where they're not training as intensely year-round. So I think it's good to honor those spaces in your life, those times when other things might be calling your attention more. And that doesn't mean you're breaking up with reading. It could even mean just reading a little bit less. That is it for now as far as 10 tips. But if you enjoy conversations on why reading is wonderful, then I encourage you to check out my discussion series, Why Read?, in which I ask various booktubers why they choose to read rather than do any other hobby or pastime. So that is it for now. Please let me know in the comment section below which tip is your favorite that I mentioned, or if you have other tips you want to add, please feel free to add them. And thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.